right back, and that song is in my head as we work on "I Love You, Jesus," because that's one of the best songs that I have ever written. It's going to be a big hit. No, I am really happy with that song. I've been working on it, and I wanted to add some more jazzy stuff to it, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it block chordy kind of stuff. We're not going to do any Miles Davis, Mozarty stuff in there. We're going to keep it rather simple because I am going to start incorporating more complex music theory into my songs, which I'll share with you right now. But this is Jeremiah as I throw in some music administrative stuff going on here. This is Jeremiah with New Covenant. Let's get back into the what we're doing. We greet you in the only name given amongst men, one name. And we do everything in that name, in word or in deed, which is everything. And we magnify the name together with you, which means God saves, God loves to save, and we're going to make that name glorified because we're going to put our mind on what Father wants, which is to save souls. That means you know the name. Because you're devoted to getting the job done. Jesus told Peter, do you love me? What are you doing? You should be out there binding up the brokenhearted. He said, you're fishing. I can get any human to fish. But it's a special calling. Paul calls it a high calling to save souls. Plant and water. That's loving me. Why? Because that's what I love. Okay? Now let's get back to work here. Jeremiah is here with New Covenant. We're going to get to the rapture momentarily. As I refer to some of this beautiful music, I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. That's why we talk about the rapture, because the rapture is for people who love him. He's coming for those who love his appearing, which is translated, who love him. We talk about being with Jesus all the time here. Ain't not the only thing we talk about here. I get that from some of the Babylonians in the street and some of the rebels and some of the rebels within the church who are not actually of us, although they're present. Judas was present for 3 years with the Master, but he was not down with the program. He didn't want to love people. He didn't want to love God. He didn't want to have any sacrifice for pleasures. He was not in tune with the gospel, though he was hanging around. We cultivate the real deal here, which is love Jesus, love the brethren. Let's get busy doing something for the church. I was talking with some relatives here the other day, and I told one of my brothers, I said, Christianity is based upon an office in general. It doesn't mean you have to always have an office in the church. That's not the point. Generally speaking, if you tell me you don't have an office, or you're not looking for an office, that's not good. If you don't have any participation in planting and watering, Paul calls us yoke fellows. Paul's not saying that there aren't Christians in limbo who are at home cooking for their husbands or wives or whatever, taking care of a job, very busy people who don't have a job in the church. That your job in your private life can be used as an office. However, having a concrete office in the church is really, really, really important. And you should be open to one of those. Not just using your office at your job, which is predominantly cooking food or doing something along those lines. God will obviously use you, in some sort of restaurant. He'll grant you boldness to spread the good news to people that you might make a difference and bring peace to a broken-hearted individual by let's get on the ball here. Some of you have noticed that Jeremiah is active and he's pumped. I get lethargic like other people, but not much. Not that much. Iron sharpens iron. Christian is supposed to pump the other Christian. I was trying to pump up some brother here the other day, and he wasn't down with it, as they say. And I left him alone because that's the way I am in general. And if he wants to take some time off or doesn't agree with something, that's between him and the Lord. But if he's going to hang out with me, he's got to basically stay pumped. Man, woman, or child, that's the way it goes. We've got music work for the Lord here. We're servants here. Moses, my servant. Joshua, have I not commanded you? Joshua, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Okay, that's what we pump here. That's discipline again. Some people think it's too much for them or whatever. I have absolutely no qualms about what I don't think about their business that much. I got my business. I turned on Fox News. Things are getting worse here in the United States. A couple of months ago, they didn't have baby food, but a Nazi army in Ukraine got $500 billion. If you can't see, things are a little mixed up there, where American babies don't have baby food, and a guy who's probably a Nazi just got $500 billion of your money, and you can't see that's a big problem, you are a zombie. Now we call them Democrats or whatever, but that's a generalization. But what's the point? Point is, it ain't good. I'll be 68 this year. We've never had a shortage of baby food in this country. That's telling you that the country's going south and we're getting towards the rapture. That's this simple. America is one of the last places where God blessed the William Penn followers to have a general demeanor and demographic of righteousness is a reproach to any nation or any people. God is reproaching the country. He's saying, you know what reproach means? He's saying, what are you doing? That's what he's doing. And their admonitions, that means warnings. That's what's going on right now. I'll be 68 this year. I've never heard of any baby shortages here in this country. Why? Because God, the founders and a lot of people here, the Quakers, are basically the foundation of blessings here. That's why. So you want to ignore the Quaker? You want to ignore the Amish people and the teachings of the Red Letter edition of the Wesleyan Methodist Christian Church, and you want to confront, and you're going to find a lot of correction going on. God doesn't want people to pass away, so he's going to give them some last chances to get their act together, and he's going to use the wicked people to do that. Whereas before, he didn't have to do it that much, did he? Everybody on my street when I was growing up, nobody had a gun. We had a family move in that had guns when I turned about 14 or 15. They came from Los Angeles. Nobody in our neighborhood had guns. Nobody drank alcohol on the entire street, I think. It was an African American street, and none of the parents drank alcohol that I knew of. They went to bed at 10 o'clock. They had a driveway with one car in it. Nobody parked in the street. We had one murder in 2 or 3 years or so. Everybody said hello and minded their own business. We had very few car accidents. We had some redneck police in the community, but they didn't bother us that much. Why? Because righteousness is a shield. It doesn't shield you. Let me give you a quick lesson. Righteousness does not shield you from God perfecting you. God's going to perfect every Christian. He's going to allow difficulties and problems to get your act together, and these challenges do what? They mold you and they give you hope. You get character from being molded and challenged and running into troubles and going to church. And as this goes on, you're going to come out a brand new smelling fresh rose, and that's what God wants. So William Penn and all this MAGA crowd, Make America Great, that's not going to remove you from those circumstances. However, on the same coin, if there's a bunch of wild stuff going on, God's going to add to your tribulation personal by being in that environment. In other words, the evil people around here, they're going to add a little bit, possibly, or a lot to your sorrows. That's the way it goes. And we have scriptures that the Lord is a shield about you and all of that. And that's wonderful, Psalm 91 and all that. And a lot of that is in effect. But it does not undermine the fact that that's why the MAGA crowd and everyone is upset, because when everybody goes evil, it makes everything uncomfortable. And we want to start William Penn all over again. Where we start Pennsylvania all over again in a country of people that aren't greedy, who aren't violent, and start all over again and start a whole new state of Philadelphia, where there's brotherly love. We're ready to start it all over again. God wiped out and flooded a lot of evil people because they were just mean people. And God said, okay, that's enough. That's enough. Noah, you take your family in that big giant boat over there, and I'm going to flood this place. Next time it's going to be by fire. This time it's by water. So the Bible says that Lot was vexed by his environment. He was trying to be a righteous guy. Obviously, him and his wife are having problems in some of the areas of their life because they're surrounded by sin. It's going to probably get to them. However, they were pretty much devoted to being righteous people. So Lot came and got him, but the wife ran back and wanted to party. Get back into the wild stuff out there. And she left her husband and her 2 daughters and so forth for the wild party. And she turned into a pillar of salt, which means God's going to clean her up quick. Salt is a sign that you need to be cleaned up. That's why the Master said salt is good. It creates discipline. It creates an orderly environment. It's the essence of beauty, which is order, color, light, energy, which is the same thing as heaven. Now, obviously, earth doesn't have that much order, but God's going to put it in order. You can take that to the bankola, as they say here in America. You can count on it. He's going to get everything straightened out. Don't let the green grass fool you here. Don't let all the chaos fool you. Everything is going to be smooth as ice right before your eyes, you who are born again. It's going to start with a cloud. If you're in a cloud with Jesus Christ, nobody can crash into you in your car. Nobody can rob you. Nobody can do anything to you. You can't get COVID. Nothing can happen to you. You can't cry over loved ones who are missing or gone. You can't have any more problems in a cloud with Jesus. And that's the lesson today. So some of you out there, don't get mixed up. Oh, it's evil. It's good. Oh, it's horrible. It sure is, but it's not going to stay that way. That's one reason why I had Beauty up last year with quite a few videos. We have, I just added some more. We have quite a few videos up that have high definition pictures of places around the world, babies being born, a birth and so forth, beautiful scriptures about how beautiful God's going to have things in the future. Okay, that's there for a reason, because everything looks ugly. You need to focus on accentuating the positive. That was a very popular song here in America about 80 years ago or so. Accentuate the positive. I'm not going to talk about the beast who's ugly and who murders every day here. I'm not going to do that, because we shouldn't do that. We have to mention evil. We're not ostriches who put their heads in the ground, but we're not going to harp on really bad things here all the time. No, 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 no. That's called no, 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 no. We're harping on being with Jesus in color and light and purity. End of story. That's why we interrupted the Matrix with the rapture. So we can get right back into a lot of positive things instead of just teaching. You know, I'm learning. Well, let me tell you, while we learn, we're going to yearn. You understand what I'm saying? While we're learning, we're going to anticipate being well taken care of servants of the living God. That's the point. That's the point here. Don't get mixed up here. I'm not here to learn about faith. I'm here to have faith take me to heaven. I see all these faith shirts in America. That shows you they're basically backslidden in general. Why? Because there should be more love shirts. All I see are faith shirts. Which means that people want faith without love. It's simple grammar, simple math. You should have on your t-shirt faith, hope, and love. We're going to get into that this year big time. Okay, why don't they have it on their shirt? All they have is faith, which equals take care of me. But you do not know, Revelation chapter 2 and 3, that you are poor, wretched, and naked. But you think you're rich and doing well. But you don't know that, as the Master said, Revelation, you don't know that you're poor and wretched and naked and miserable. I was going to turn there. We're right there. But I want to move on. That's where Jesus redefines wealth and prosperity. Wealth and prosperity is not necessarily what the MAGA crowd says. We're not putting the MAGA crowd down. We have a lot in common with the MAGA crowd, we Christians. They espouse a lot of our Magna Carta. Our rules. Let's get away from contemporary Christianity for a moment. Let's get back to 52 categories with Jeremiah here with New Covenant. We have 52 categories. I just went over a few of them. 1 is agape, 2 is sound doctrine, 3 is the trifecta, 4 is the fantastic 4, grace, mercy, peace, and rest, which is obviously going to have a lot of work. 5 is faith, which is obviously going to have a lot of work and subtext. 6, which is wisdom and volition, that's a lot of work. 7 is beauty. We're basically done with beauty. I decided to make beauty the main thrust of this ministry for this year and coming into this year, 2023. Last year, rather, and coming into 2023. I decided to make beauty in heaven one of the two of the main ideas for a lot of reasons. Then we put in purity is number 3. And number 4, we put in beloved, which is getting back to agape, which you can't get away from. All Bible study is mutually dependent. You really can't talk about love without talking about discipline. You can't put love and undisciplined together unless you're on TV or you're not intelligent. That's the point. And I learned that from my parents. My parents were hardworking and disciplined, so I know that love is not a clown. A clown doesn't know love. A clown knows affection. I'm talking about someone who acts like a clown, who clowns around all the time. Not serious about really anything. They live on the Isle of Capri. That's what the word Capri means. That's one of the meanings of Capri. Capricious. My parents were neither one of those. And I learned that discipline is love. Order is love. If I come over your house and your house is not in order, you don't love me. That's my point. You don't love yourself. Love demands discipline. That's why when the Master mentions the word agape, he qualifies it and corrects it by mentioning the fact that discipline has to be involved with emotion. Emotion without discipline is affection. Animals have that. But when you start hanging around God, you get love, and you get deep intelligence and devotion and discipline. That's the point. Okay? Now I gave you a couple of ideas here. Let's let go of the 52 here. And we're going to say one more thing before we get to the rapture. So out of these 52, I've chosen 7. I picked out 6. I'll probably make it 7. Excuse me, I'll probably make it 7. But I chose 6 initially. And we're going to take 6 or 7 out of the 52. And I'm going to put them in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to explain how they're connected together and how they're powerful together. And let me do that right now. Number 1 in this ministry for this year, and the lesson for March, is not the rapture. We're just putting the rapture in. The matrix of this month of March is, number 1 is New Covenant, the name of this ministry. What does it mean? How is it tied into the gospel? Well, it's tied into the gospel because New Covenant means God is going to offer you a reunion, a love reunion. Your grandparents showed their tail feathers to God, and God said, okay, your children are going to have some problems. So Jesus Christ comes and says, okay, you children of Adam, I'm going to give you a chance to go back to the Garden of Eden and not go downstairs. For those of you who are willing to humble yourselves and come to me and serve, then the adoption papers are in the office. It's just that simple. That's the offer called New Covenant. In that offer, there's criteria, and the criteria is learning to be a servant. If you want to be great in God's kingdom, learn to be the servant of all. That's what this is about. I teach that quite often at the gym and so forth, and people start running away because we're in the apostasy where everyone wants to have some sort of affiliation with the church, and really what they want is the gold. The Bible says, the Lord said that the people came into the church or the temple and they were staring at the gold. They didn't want to love God, and they didn't want to love people. It's okay to look at the gold and admire the gold. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't love it. I admire gold. I think gold's beautiful. I bought a gold chain. I've never been one for buying jewelry. I bought my nieces some jewelry. I think they like it. I don't want them to get into being showy young ladies and so forth, but I don't think it hurts to buy an inexpensive diamond thing or something, or other, to wear around the house, or maybe even wear to church, and not so much to church necessarily, but going out to have dinner or something, or who knows. Which I probably shouldn't have bought them from a technical perspective, let's put it that way, but all things are lawful that are lawful. Put it that way. So the next item is sound doctrine. The number one issue basically for the New Covenant playlist and all of this Bible study, the number one issue is after you might look at agape, it's number 2 on the list, is sound doctrine. That is the set of principles and the set of teachings that the Master has given us to learn. It's just that simple. And the number one item is next, which is living bread. The number one item is living bread of the Bible, of sound doctrine. Of all the books we have in the Bible, which is another name for sound doctrine, out of all those books and teachings, what's the number one issue? Living bread. Why? Because if you eat this bread, you'll never die. And what is that bread, Jeremiah? The basic teachings of Jesus Christ and Paul the Apostle, centered on learning how to be a servant. Mr. Proud Adam, if you learn how to be a servant, you'll win this whole ball game, as they say in America. You'll come out smelling like a rose. And I'm going to teach that this year in triplicate. Okay? The next item is faith. You have an offer, which is a new covenant, and the criteria are teachings, and the number one item in the teachings is living bread. And you need to put confidence in living bread. That's what faith is. I'm putting confidence in doing what the Master told me to do. Go over there, do what I'm told, keep my mouth closed. That's the disciplinary aspect of this whole situation. It doesn't mean you're not going to experience love while we're going along with this. That's why I have love coming up next. All of this that we're going through, you're going to be experiencing love, the fervent love of Jesus, which I can't get out of my head right now, that song. I love you, Jesus. Because that's our main theme here. Christianity was supposed to have the main theme of loving Jesus, not material things and being proud about giving money or something and enjoying the world with a TV preacher going to Alaska and eating shrimp. That was not supposed to be the goal here. That's called falling away. America, as a demographic, has gotten away, and I can tell you right now, the Lord's not happy with it. But that's between the Lord and essentially the people who are in the church, not me. I try to help people, obviously. I've done it at the gym recently. I haven't gotten a warm reception, but the point is, I got to do what I got to do. He who has an ear, let him hear. That's the point. So the first item is new covenant. That is an agreement offer from the offended party, the party of the first part. You're the party of the second part. And the offer is to you to learn and to love Jesus Christ, to fulfill the royal law and to delineate that and learn. And the number one aspect of all of this is humiliation and living bread. The number one component of living bread is humiliation. And obviously, loving love and forgiveness, and of course, learning to do the right, pure, holy thing. That's basics, the basics for now that I want to share with you. That's basically living bread. And you need to have confidence in all of that and more. And that means that you're going to eat enough bread. And the Master said, man shall live by eating every word. You can't say I don't want to steal and commit adultery. You're a loser. You must pay attention to every word. You can't play pick apart with the commands of Jesus Christ. It's not going to work. That's why study is so valuable. I had a friend who wanted to get into Christianity and Bible study not Christianity, but Bible study with hanging out and so forth. And I told him, you might want to take your game up instead of watching so much hockey. There's a wonderful Christian brother who liked watching hockey, and he almost got trapped because one of the reasons why we have Bible study is so you don't get trapped. He had some Jehovah's Witnesses invite him over for dinner. I told him, I said, that's the devil who invited you over to dinner. They teach that you can earn salvation. Protestants are opposed to the Jehovah's demonic witnesses. Why? Because they teach demonic doctrine. It's damnable heresy. Because you can't earn anything from God. It's called the throne of grace. When you go to God, He's not impressed with you. He's impressed with His Son. It doesn't mean you can do what you want to do. It means that whenever you show up, you go in there to the courthouse, talking about Jesus and His accomplishment on the cross, taking your errors and throwing them away. That's the basis of communication for eternity. They don't teach that. They knock on your door because they're told the more doors you knock on, the better off you are for salvation. The Catholics say if you buy candles, you might get a husband. That's called wrong answer. That's why I'm very happy to be surrounded by Protestants, of the Wesleyans over here, the Amish people over there, because they believe what I just told you. I'll be right back with part 3 for the day. This will be my last segment. Be right back. Maranatha.